Oh, I'm live. Hey there. It's Huang here with Hands On Therapy Services. And I wanted to come on today to talk to you about elbow problems. Why elbow pain keeps returning and essentially what you can do about it. So, all month long, I've been blogging, I've been talking to people who are calling in the clinic regarding elbow pain. So, I wanted to bring to light some of the reasons why you might be continuing to have elbow problems. So, if you're watching me live, thank you so much. Hello, what's going on? Hi, Victoria Performance PT. Love you guys. Watch you guys all the time. So great to see you. I see a couple of other people join, but regardless of whether you're watching this live or you're watching this on replay, I hope to provide some insights in terms of elbow pain, because pain can be one of those really chronic types of issues that just takes a really long time to go away. And I'm going to go over essentially a lot of the different reasons why, but really what you essentially can do about it. All right. So, elbow pain is something I have personally dealt with for years. Like a lot of times we talk to people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s and older, because when you get older, as someone who's a little bit older, we have to make different decisions about our health, our well-being, how our body moves, how our body functions, just because there is a certain amount of wear and tear that we essentially have when we go through. If you think about your car, and I usually make a lot of analogies of our bodies to cars because, to a certain extent, our bodies are the vehicles that allow us to do the things that we love doing, going places, doing things. And really, if you think about it, your arms do everything for you from the littlest things. And you don't actually know how important it is until it gets hurt. And it's everybody, right? You have absolutely no idea, because we as human beings take for granted all the things that we have. We have two hands for a reason, 10 fingers, or I'd like to say 8 fingers and two thumbs. Um, but essentially, our elbows are the hinge that kind of like put everything together, right? And when they don't work really well, it can be really frustrating, can be really uncomfortable. It gets really annoying. Like, I've had elbow pain, so like all the things I'm telling you, I have been through and then some. And one of the things that happen is, like, when you have elbow pain, it can to a certain extent be chronic in nature. Unless you know exactly how to deal with it and know how to get ahead of it every single time. So in my 20s, my elbow started to bother me here and there. Had no idea. I was like a new therapist. And then when I switched jobs, I went from one job to another job. It started to really bother me even further. And that's one of the reasons why I've learned what I need to do to really keep my elbows healthy. So, elbow pain comes like chronic elbow issues, whether it be tennis elbow or what they call lateral epicondylitis, right? Or you have golfer's elbow, which is called medial epicondylitis. No matter which side of the elbow, the outside is your tennis elbow area, and then the inside of your elbow is your golfer's elbow, your medial epicondylitis type of issues, and then your lateral epicondylitis, your tennis elbow. So regardless of where it is, and sometimes people come in, they have pain back here, and essentially back here is your tricep. So sometimes people can develop a less common tricep tendonitis, but an itis, a tendonitis, is just a very common phrase to say like you have some pain and inflammation. A lot of times it's like, well, why do I have that? People want to know what they did. And with chronic types of issues, unless you fell on it, bumped on it, did something, broke it, you don't really know, because it accumulates a little bit over time. And elbow pain is one of those kind of things that comes and goes. So for the most part, everyone at some point in their life, like 80 to 90% of people are going to have elbow problems, right? Majority of the time, it's going to go away. Majority of the time, you stop, you're like, whatever I did aggravated it, now it stopped. I don't have that pain anymore. What happens to elbow pain is it'll go away and it comes back. Now, if you're lucky, it takes years to come back. If you're not so lucky, it's about a couple months, right? And then what happens is over time, as you stop and rest it, it goes away. And then when you start using it again, it might rear its ugly head. But every single time it rears its ugly head, it gets worse and worse. It takes longer to go away. And then when it does quote unquote go away, it doesn't necessarily go away for good, right? Like you still kind of feel it. You can't do certain things. And one of the questions that we always ask when people call our clinic is like, what is it stopping you from doing? And elbow people always tell me, it doesn't stop me from doing anything. And you're right. You have full motion. Actually, you might have more than enough motion to share with, yourself and everyone else. And so you're not limited by motion, but you're limited majority of the time by pain. And that pain will actually stop you from doing the things that you want to do. And a lot of times people don't see it as like, oh, it's stopping me. I can do everything I want because it's like I'm just getting dressed, tying my hair, and driving, or working. But it's probably stopping you from doing certain things that you would normally do if your elbow wasn't hurting. So majority of the time, people like stop working out, stop putting weight through their arms, stop doing push-ups, stop benching, stop gripping, because eventually it gets worse and worse. So, one of the reasons why elbow pain keeps coming back over and over again is because um, just because you just because you don't have pain anymore doesn't necessarily mean your problem went away, right? It doesn't mean that your problem actually went away. It's just like lingering underneath. So, one of the most common things that people do um, with elbow pain is that they read some stuff in online and they're like, you got to exercise, you got to strengthen, and that's great and all. And it is important to strengthen, and actually strengthening does help with elbow pain. The problem is, what if you were picking the wrong type of exercises? So the order in which you do certain exercises play a key role in terms of getting rid of elbow pain completely. And part of what we do here is when we take a look at someone's mobility, we just take a look at the whole body. Like, how do you move? How do you function? How are your arms, your shoulders moving? Your elbows moving, your wrists moving, your hands moving, because it really does play a key factor in terms of what exercises you're going to get started with versus just like, oh, let's just do rotator cuff strengthening. Rotator cuff strengthening, like shoulder strengthening, very specifically, you might see that people move right into like doing external rotation strengthening, like whether you do it with bands or weights, your arms by your side, and you're pulling out, right? So that might be a great exercise, right? That might be a great exercise for shoulders. But that might not be right for you right then and there, like the first thing you do. Okay. Another type of exercise might be like you see like a ton of wrist curls, right? It's not that wrist curls are quote unquote wrong, but prescribed at the right time, in the right dosage, plays a key role in terms of if you can actually get rid of elbow pain or not. Another reason why, so the wrong type of exercise can actually make elbow pain return, right? Improper form, of course, is another one. And I often see it when I'm working with people who are like, oh, I do all this strengthening. And I say, okay, well, show me what you're doing. Because sometimes just a slight tweak in how you're doing something can play a really key role in terms of reducing that elbow pain and actually allowing you to strengthen the way that it's helpful to get rid of elbow pain completely. Exercising the wrong area is the third reason why elbow pain continues. A lot of times you might think elbow pain is, oh, let's just do a bunch of wrist curls, right? But what if the problem wasn't right here? Your pain might be right here in your elbow, but maybe, okay, maybe, just maybe, the problem is actually the root cause of it's coming from your shoulder. So one of the key things when it comes to, finding an expert in your area, going to an occupational therapist or certified hand therapist like we are here at Hands-On Therapy Services, is really doing a full thorough evaluation to rule in and rule out what the actual problem is. Just because you have elbow pain at your elbow. If I just started there and just ignored everything else, if I just started um, just started doing stuff at the elbow and ignored everything else, I could miss a key component problem of why your elbow pain continues. Actually, that was exactly what we did with someone when he was coming to us. He was like, "Oh, I'm doing wrist curls, I'm doing shoulder exercises," and when we really dug in into what was weak and what wasn't working for him, a lot of times it was just because he was exercising the wrong area at the wrong time. So instead of doing a bunch of squeezing, which everyone just loves, squeezing a ball or squeezing putty, that actually hurt him more. It didn't hurt him at the time he did it, it hurt him later, right? So a key thing to really pay attention to is sometimes the things that you're doing right at that moment don't hurt you, but pay attention. If it's hurting you later, may not be the right exercise, in that area for you to be doing first. So believe it or not, a lot of times when people come to me with elbow problems, I don't start at the elbow. I'll actually check their hand, check their wrist, and I'll check their shoulder. And I'll say, like, where is that problem coming from first? And then dealing with that problem first before we can even get to the elbow problem, right? So doing the wrong type of exercise, improper form, exercising the wrong area are the first three. The other reason why elbow pain returns and you can't get rid of it is you're going too fast, right? This idea of no pain, no gain does not necessarily apply to chronic tennis elbow issues, right? This going too fast, using too much weight, which can cause more pain later, is one of the reasons why elbow pain persists. And I'm not saying, certain types of strengthening can be very helpful for elbow pain, but if you're sitting there and you're increasing weights but you're increasing them in the wrong order, can cause a lot more elbow pain. And then it's hard if you're starting to develop, different types of pain elsewhere. It's really hard to then isolate and find out what the issues are, right? And the reason why, to a certain extent, I have to be a little bit so vague here is because I really don't know what you're doing. I really don't know what exercises you're doing and how you're doing it, and in what order you're doing it, how often you're doing it, how heavy you're doing it. So these are just general guidelines, right? If you're somebody with chronic elbow pain and you're like, I've done the stretching, I've done the massage, I've done the therapy, I've gone to Cairo, I get massages, this is what I hear all the time. And if those things haven't worked, and I could certainly hear and feel your frustrations in terms of why haven't those things worked for me in the past. And it's really key to find somebody that you trust to dive into that with. So when I was doing that with a woman that came in to me earlier this week, actually, she came in. It was hand pain, wrist pain, elbow pain, my shoulders hurting me, and it's both sides. By the time she got to me, it was like both hands, both arms, like the whole 9 yards. And I'm like, how severe is it? Mild, moderate, severe. She's like, it's severe. It was once in a while, now it's just constant. And she uses her hands for work all the time. She's in the medical field. And so she's constantly doing things that squeeze, pump, and she's like, I just can't take anymore. 6 years ago, 8 years ago, I can't remember, she's had several different types of injections. And it helped for a very short period of time, but it didn't work. And she's done the massage, she's done the what else has she done? I can't remember exactly. She's done the therapy in the past, and it's just she didn't see the results. And so it was really hard for her to really believe that anything could help her, even if it's 6 or 8 years later. And here is my top reason why pain returns, and this is the one thing that she was constantly doing, and that's overstretching. Overstretching. So you'll see videos, and I have them. If you go to hands-on therapy services, you'll have video. I put out videos of people showing people how to stretch. But I always talk about two types of people when it comes to elbow issues and a lot of chronic type issues. I talk about two types of people, and what I'm talking about is body type. right? You have your stiff as a board person or you have your loosey goosey people, right? Stiff as a board people feel stiff all the time and really don't have a lot of joint play, right? Loosey goosey people feel stiff all the time, but they have way too much motion. So if you take a look at my elbows, I go into what's called hyperextension. So it goes beyond the zero. My fingers go really far back. My thumb can touch my forearm. I don't like to show that off too much because that's not really great for my thumbs. But people look at how much extension, like how hooked up my thumb is. But I have it in my elbow. I have it in my knee. I have a lot of motion essentially in my shoulder. It goes past my head. Right. So two types of people: stiff as a board people and loosey goosey people. And majority of the time, people who are very loose jointed, are the ones that tend to come in um, doing that overstretch. They're like, she did the same thing. We talk to people all the time. They're like, well, I was watching these videos and they show me, like, one of the biggest things is I'm like, show me exactly what you're doing. I want to see it. I want to observe how you're doing it because sometimes little tweaks in what you're doing play a key role. So normally you'll see the ones where they're just like, pull your fingers back and just stretch all the muscles and then stretch it this way. And that's great and wonderful. But if you have way too much motion and you keep stretching, overstretching can actually hurt you and cause more elbow pain and more elbow, like, in a chronic nature than controlling some of that motion and stretching in a way that stretches very specific muscles that are very tight. One thing with overstretching is that, and I want you to pay attention to this, like if you are somebody who has chronic elbow pain, if you stretch and you stretch and then you feel like you just need to keep stretching because it's the only way to feel good, that is a sign and indication that you might be overstretching because there's a weakness component to it where you're just overstretching and you're not doing the things that you need to do to actually put your joints back together and then use the strength of those muscles to hold you. I often talk about joints being like, if even if you're just a little, like, you're supposed to be centered, and if you're a little off centered and you're essentially potentially stretching yourself so you're more off centered, or you're making your muscles work in a way it's not essentially meant to be, right? So if you're stretching and you find that you're really stretching really far back, and majority of the time people are like, I want to stretch to feel it, right? If I don't feel anything, then that's not a stretch. Well, you're not feeling it anymore. You keep stretching it harder and harder. That might be one of the reasons why your elbow pain is so persistent and won't go away. So the key thing here is to stop overstretching and maybe look at how you can stretch in a way, or maybe not even stretch at all. So sometimes people come into me and they're very, very loose jointed. I teach them not to stretch. I teach them ways where they can, like, kind of like put their bones and joints back together again, and get that relief from stretching so that when their pain subsides, then we can strengthen, right? And then we can strengthen certain areas that will hold us, hold your elbow joints together more properly so that you can have a chance of getting rid of your elbow pain. Right. So those are essentially the 5 reasons why elbow pain keeps returning. And if you've been doing some of that where you feel like you're exercising, you're using the wrong exercise, like, part of it is like, you got to trust your body, you got to trust your mind that, God, I'm doing this exercise, it doesn't feel quite right. Or maybe you're not really sure of your form, if you're like hunched over and you're exercising, or if you're stretching, you're exercising your shoulders and you extend your arm too much, you might not be getting that key muscle that you're trying to get in the first place, right? So be mindful of your form. And sometimes having a second set of eyeballs. That's what I say, second set of eyeballs, watch you and look at your form and say, okay, what are you doing well and what are you not doing well that you can tweak, that you can exercise more efficiently, more effective to get you what you want faster. Like who has time, to waste essentially being in more pain, trying to figure it out, and then potentially doing the wrong thing, right? So keep that in mind. And then exercising the wrong area. So one of my number one things is I don't always go straight to the elbow and start treating it. I definitely look at the shoulder, I look at the wrist and hand, and I say where, I've got to rule in and rule other things out. One of the most key common problems here, and you'll read if you ever, watch any of my videos on YouTube at Hands On Therapy Services, I talk about different nerve types of issues. And one of the nerve types of issues, radial tunnel. It's a very underdiagnosed, not very common type of issue. You won't hear, but that nerve runs right here by the elbow, and a lot of times it's the cause of the elbow issues in very chronic types of elbow problems. Um, so, exercising the wrong area, just be mindful, like, are you exercising in the area that you should be to actually get rid of elbow pain, right? And then going too fast, respect your pain. If you have sharp pain, you're doing it, don't bear and say, oh, no, no pain, no gain. The no pain, no gain mentality is really from like you're coming from a very healthy perspective already. You don't have aches and pain. It's the just to push you to exercise and build muscle. And building muscle sometimes can burn a little bit, but it should stop as soon as you stop, right? Elbow, pain or burning or anything that continues and lingers, that's definitely a problem. And to think that that same theory applies to no pain, no gain is one of the reasons why people continually suffer with chronic elbow problems. Been there, done that. Oh yeah, you can do it well. Like, no. Um, and then the last most important, I save it for last, most important is overstretching. Overstretching is one of the number one things that I stop people from doing when they come and show me how they're stretching, because that may be the thing that keeps the problem becoming more and more chronic. So if you're doing any of those things, what can you do? We got to change some of that so that you know that you have an opportunity to actually get rid of elbow pain. Because elbow pain is one of those chronic things that there's really, if you've tried injections and they didn't work, these might be an issue, right? You might be a more of a loosey goosey people, or you may be too tight, right? Somewhere we got to figure that out. Got to rule in and rule out different types of problems so that you can get to what actually caused it in the first place. If you So what can you do about those? You can consider getting professional help, second set of eyeballs that can actually look and say, okay, what have you done, what haven't you done, so that they can help you problem solve to say, okay, here's where you should exercise, here's how you can exercise in the right form, and show you the appropriate stretch. So you're not stretching to hurt yourself, but you're stretching to help yourself. So those are some things to consider when it comes to elbow pain. So it's totally possible. If you're somebody who suffers from chronic elbow pain, no, 100% it's possible to get rid of. You don't have to continuously get injections. Most of the time, surgeons aren't really doing more than 2 injections, and surgery isn't always an option. Right, surgery isn't always an option, especially if the pain is all over the place. And if you haven't tried therapy, consider giving us a call here at Hands On Therapy Services. We've got free guides in terms of some additional tips. If you haven't tried it, or you have tried it, you might find out something new that you haven't yet done. But if you're suffering for more than 6 months or a year and you're just done with it and you don't want the pain to continue, give us a call here at Hands On Therapy Services and talk to myself or my other specialists and see what we can do to help you, make a decision on what is possible for your elbow pain. All right. I hope that helped. If you have any questions, leave me a comment below and I'm happy to answer it. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in. Until next time. All right. Thank you so much. I'm going to end this broadcast. Bye.